I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll do roll call. It is March 4th, 12:03 p.m. And Arnold, could you do roll call for us, or Valeria?
Yes, I have Rafael Dueñas,
Present.
Julian Ranofsky,
Present.
Arturo Dominguez,
Here. Here.
Cesar Garay,
Present.
John Villarreal,
Present.
Ray Rocha,
Present.
Myra Hernandez,
Present.
and George Aulo.
Let's make a note that when he jumps on to count him, I just saw him down the hall at the mayor's office, so he'll probably be in a few.
We do have a quorum. We'll call for the third meeting of our agenda, which is the approval of minutes of February 2021. Is there a motion to approve the
Motion to
minutes?
approve, Arturo.
Second. Julian.
Motion by Arturo, second by Julian Ratnowski. All in favor? Discussion.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those against? None against. Motion carries unanimously. Do we have any citizen comments?
No, sir, we don't have any comments have that been submitted this week.
Okay, then we'll move to our fifth agenda item, which is a presentation and possible action on proposed economic development agreement for Westpac Avocado Inc. under the Texas Chapter 380 Economic Incentive Program. Mr. Garcia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I'm really excited to come before the council and, pardon me, the committee on this particular project. I mean, it's an outstanding special opportunity, I think, for Laredo, and you'll see that in the details that I provide to you today here. I want to start by saying that this has come before you for consideration and possible recommendation today. I have with me in this particular project Trevor Newhouse, who is the Vice President of Operations for Westpac. And he briefly introduced himself earlier, but if you want to say hello, Trevor.
Hi, everyone, committee. Again, I'll just do a quick introduction. Trevor Newhouse, Westpac Avocado. I am currently the Vice President of Operations. I run our United States, our Mexico, and our South America distribution and packing facilities. I'm also doing all of our CapEx in terms of capital expenditures and growth and infrastructural development. I've been with the organization now for 21 years. I think a lot of people see the explosion in avocados, and we're feeling it here. And that growth is emulating across, both the European markets, the Asian markets, and specifically in the United States, and all of those markets. We're excited. We've been working with Teklo for some time, and Gene, and we really like the way that Laredo operates. You guys are very forthcoming. You guys are very, everyone that I've met so far is extremely nice, which you don't find a lot around some places. It's been a pleasure to work with Teklo and Gene so far, and I hope that we can continue this relationship as we move forward.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. I also like to introduce Gene Lindgren, the President and CEO of Laredo Economic Development Corporation. Some of you already know him, but Gene, if you could give us a brief introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Gene Lindgren. I just completed 7 months as the leader of this organization after many of you remember Olivia Varela, 7 years of doing great things for the Laredo EDC. I've got a great staff and a great network of partners, I call them, board members, and community partners and friends. And we're going to find that as we go through the slides that Tekla put together on this great opportunity for this great company. We started working, the LEDC started working with Westpac and Trevor and some of the owners, several site visits late last year, great interest, and it was a pleasure to pass this opportunity to the city to evaluate some tax incentives that could help us seal the deal. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Gene. And it has been a pleasure working with Gene on this project. He made the initial moves and reaching out to Westpac several months ago. Lastly, I'd like to introduce Michael Gonzalez from Laredo College. Michael?
Thank you, Teclo, and good to see so many friends here on this call. Michael Gonzalez. I am the Senior Director for External Affairs for Laredo College. So I help and run our Laredo College EDC, as well as our marketing and public relations groups, where I serve as our lead in PIO. And then we also run the Martinez Fine Arts Center, one of the best theater buildings we have here in Laredo. So proud to be a part of this team and to help and contribute to this project. It's a pleasure to work with all of you and to work with Teclo, with Gene, and with many others on this project. So looking forward to even more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Getting back to the project, everyone, we believe this is an extraordinary project for Laredo. It will create investment, jobs, and opportunity for the city of Laredo. And strategically, it adheres to the Laredo Comp Plan and the City Council's directives, which call for expanding opportunities in the logistics and cold storage produce areas, which is exactly what we're doing here. I bring this before you because we're proposing entering into this Texas Chapter 380 agreement with Westpac today. I will provide you the details of that agreement, and at certain points, we'll call on Trevor and Gene and Michael to expound on some of these certain items. So I'm going to go through this. I think there's, Arnold, what is there, 15 slides or something like that? 20, right? No, 20 something. We had some last ads. We apologize for that, but just wanted to make sure that you had all the information possible on here. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go ahead and start. I'll start with slide 1 here. And Arnold's already sharing that. Just introduction. Here's kind of what we're going to talk about today. I'm presenting to you information on our economic strategy. We're going to talk about Westpac avocado. We're going to talk about a really important sustainability report that Westpac put out. Westpac's proposal, the Chapter 380 program, the City of Laredo's proposal, and then the fiscal and economic impacts of the project on Laredo and the larger community. Next slide, Arnold. So as I mentioned, the recruitment and expansion strategies for us have been, at least for the last year or so, is to concentrate especially on these produce and cold storage markets. We have a lot of dry warehousing, dry dock warehousing and distributions here, and we're very pleased to have every one of those here, and we look for more. However, we're being strategic with the recruitment and expansion of local companies and recruiting those to come to Laredo, specifically in the produce and cold storage industries, because they provide a really strong investment and a really big commitment to job creation that usually pays a little more than regular distribution warehouses. So we're committed to that, to doing that. I think we've done a good job here in the last year. We've brought in Mission Produce, and we were able to keep Mastronardi, and I know Gene's done a lot of work with Sunset, and then we've also worked with Nature Fresh Farms from Canada and a couple of others to expand and retain them here. So that's been good for us. The Chapter 380 program, obviously, that's one that a lot of cities use, and we've used it here as well. And I think it fits exactly to what would meet this and provide a really strong support for this public-private partnership that we have, or that we're proposing. Next slide. So Gene, if you can step in here, let's talk about at the very beginning how what Laredo Economic Development Corporation did to get this ball rolling.
Yeah, so we have a membership, we have board members, and we have people that help us with leads. And so one of our board members is in commercial real estate and started reeling in Trevor in Westpac, showing them the advantages of Laredo versus who we're competing against, which is McAllen. And so we spent a lot of time with Westpac and Trevor and some of the owners and engineers at the site visits and in several Zoom calls. Company's headquarters is in Murrieta, California, the largest avocado, private avocado company in the world. I think top 3 if you lump in Mission and Calavo, if I'm not mistaken. And so we're really excited about the opportunity. We're going to see some of the great advantages that this company provides in terms of sustainability, innovation, commitment, longevity. And that's why we have Michael and Tammy, you represented also in the support team. So we participated in some site visits and some meetings late last year and started to hone what the budget would be in terms of facility size and investment and employment and wages. And we're really excited about this opportunity. Just from a Laredo EDC point of view, just as Tekla mentioned, we're going to continue to try and market Laredo as the place for produce and cold storage. And so we're continuing to reach out. We're hoping we bring in more, but right now the focus is this one. Mm-hmm. And like Tekla mentioned, the investment is typically in rough terms about twice as much for a cold storage facility versus a dry warehouse. Many times the employment is twice what a dry warehouse might be because of the value add, the ripening, the inspection, the packaging, and then the wages seem to be higher than average too, because there's some expertise that the companies want to maintain. They don't want to cycle through forklift drivers and clerks. They want to maintain, and especially this company wants to maintain their employees for life, which is a breath of fresh air. And so thank you for that opportunity, Tekla.
You're welcome, Gene. Thank you. If everyone can just think about this area for a second as a growth sector for Laredo and really an opportunity. Previous year, Laredo handled about $4 billion worth of produce from Mexico. And that's really only a small sector of back then of the $230 billion of trade that we did. So you can see there's a lot of room for growth here. And we want to be able to facilitate that with the new highways and transportation systems that Mexico has installed to be able to move product from the interior across the mountains and then through Texas to Texas and the East Coast. That's provided a huge opportunity for a lot of folks. And in Mexico, you can grow year round, and this is what some of the farmers are doing. So this is a great opportunity for us. Next slide, Arnold. Oh, by the way, let me note that Mr. Alkilt has joined the meeting, so we have a full complement of members here, I think now. Thank you, Mr. Alkilt. Welcome. Okay, so Westpac Avocado. Let's talk about them for a minute, and in a couple of slides, I'll lean on Trevor to talk more about the facility and the company. But as Gene mentioned, one of the largest privately held avocado firms in the country, headquartered in Southern Cal. They have operations in U.S., Mexico, Chile, and Peru. Arnold, can you click that the video at the bottom, please, to show us what that is? And it's more background on the company. Wait, that's not this. We don't want to see the sustainable. That's the wrong one, Arnold.
We've got a lot of videos, Tekla.
Yeah, I know that, and that I wanted to show the company one, and that's not the right one. So let's get back to that. Let me see if Arnold can find it while we move on. Yeah, you do have a lot of videos, Trevor. You're exactly right. We want to get back to the PowerPoint, Arnold, and share that.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Go ahead. Can everyone kill their mics, please? But we don't have sound?
No, we don't have audio, guys.
Yeah, we don't. All right, let's move on. I don't want to get tied up with just showing that video. And certainly you can have the link and we can send that to you. My apologies. So let's go to the next slide, Arnold. All right, that's a picture of just a Westpac's headquarters in California. Next slide. Trevor, do you want to jump in here and talk about the sustainability and the report that you authored?
Trevor, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, he's got it now.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so what we did is we created a couple of years ago. You know, we had several conversations with large key accounts like Kroger and Costco and Walmart, and their desire to understand and see what we can do as produce suppliers to really engage to the consumer on a sustainability perspective of how we can be sustainable. Whether that be packaging, whether that be our process improvement, whether that be our recyclability, our footprint in terms of, you know, what we do and how we do it. So we have created over the years a very large amount of sustainability projects. And there's a file in there, I believe that's the link to it, is our entire sustainability plan. That sustainability plan specifically goes over our primary position, which is our own people, right? People to us and the legacy of the family and the Westpac family values, and the core of that to be sustainable, we feel is that we have to have the right culture and the right people on the bus in order to create a culture that is surrounded by the vision of being sustainable, right? So by creating that, then we naturally will progress into a much more sustainable type of an organization. You can see it is very detailed in there. We go over specifically on, you know, the health of the employees, the health and well-being, the fact that we are committed to supporting the Zero Hunger initiatives and some of the major food distributing programs across the United States. We also are looking at, you know, utilizing our water needs, as that is now a much valued resource. So we're looking at how we can, you know, use every drop of water, whether that be through our processes and then have actually our own water purification system so that we can then do our dry scaping. There's all these different avenues that we have at our disposal. And you can see in there that on number 8, decent work and economic growth, responsible consumption and production in terms of what we're bringing in. The big word on the street is, hey, how can we reduce poly and polypropylene and plastics within our packaging? And that's something that we have actually developed with our Earth bag, which is a fully compostable bag. And then obviously our cultural action and our climate action to how we're looking at the earth and what we do in terms of avocados and the people and the packing facilities and how we can, magnetize our ability to be helpful and not be destructive. So there's way more language inside of this. I mean, it's probably a 30, 40 page document that highlights really all the sustainability initiatives that we are currently doing and will be doing. They are very aggressive everywhere from, and we'll get into a couple slides later, where we have LEED certified facilities, all the way to the facilities being recycled material. And then all the way to solar arrays, to water recycle and treatment plants. And that is, I think, where our customers are going, and that is where we are going to be going. And I think for us to be ahead of sustainability and benchmark ourselves against a true sustainability organization, it has a lot more legs than what a lot of our competition is doing, because we are baselining and benchmarking ourselves against what other countries are doing and what other industries are doing. So I think the sustainability feature for us is really that, and fair trade are a huge initiative for Westpac, not only a couple of years ago, but moving forward, and we'll continue to do that.
Oh, wow. No, thank you, Trevor. That's really important. Obviously, here, 100% of the avocados coming up from Mexico, obviously, are being grown in facilities and put together facilities in Mexico. So, no, we can see why this is so important to you guys. Thank you for sharing. Arnold, next slide, please. So again, there's for those of you who want to go look, there's a link to all the Westpac leadership. And explains each, names everyone by name and their position and what they do. And there's a ton of resources on Westpac's pages. If you'd like to go at any point, it's westpacavocado.com. Hopefully you've had a chance to do that. But the sustainability report, there's videos on there. There's a lot of information that might be useful to you. Next slide, Arnold. So here's the proposal from Westpac and what they'd like to do in Laredo. They'd like to create an $18 million project, of which there'll be about a 100 square foot LEED certified facility, as Trevor just mentioned. Over time, about 125 permanent full-time jobs would be created, plus seasonal employment. A minimum of $15 per hour would be the lowest wage any worker, even the seasonal workers that would be employed by Westpac. That's what they're committed to. Some jobs could pay up to $65,000. Some of the higher end supervisory or managing positions. For their employees, Westpac offers medical, dental, vision, insurances, time off, retirement. I think there's some profit sharing. For us, they go far and beyond what we would require, even in the proposed 380 guidelines that y'all helped shape and vote for. They go way beyond that. Again, Westpac also is committed to invest in the community organizations. Something we heard loud and clear from Trevor. And Westpac is they want to commit to local organizations and be able to invest in them. So he's already gotten some feedback from us on what would align with their corporate mission and how they would like to donate. So we've been having discussions about that. One thing. Go ahead.
I jogged down Michael Gonzalez's information as being the man for the Laredo City College. So yeah, we're interested in that big time. I mean, we want to be embedded in the community. We want to physically, participate in community events. We want to also, donate our product to the Laredo areas in the event that we have, any issues or concerns with the current demographics, whatever support that you guys need from us, we are there to be of support. And it's a core value, and it's I think the family side of the business and the way that we operate and the ethical side of how we operate coincides with our community commitment. And you can see that also on the sustainability side too.
No, that's awesome. You can definitely see that on your pages as well.
And Trevor, I just want to make mention, thank you very much for that. We look forward to working with you, hopefully here at Laredo College. And in all of those ways, we also like avocados too. So we're excited about that. And just know we're committed, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in just a few minutes. And know that you're also working with the #1 community college in Texas. So we're really excited to be able to bring that to the forefront. Yeah, there you go, Thecla. You got to give the
Amen.
#1. So anyway, looking forward to it, Trevor.
Sounds very good. Thank you, Michael.
And Trevor, Michael thinks that Notre Dame is better than USC. He really believes that.
I mean, I graduated from Notre Dame, so blue, gold and blue through and through, and all that good stuff. So.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay, Arnold, next slide. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so this is what we're looking at in terms of investment and job creation. As I mentioned, the $18 million facility, and that includes the building and equipment and other aspects of the project, the land costs, etc. And then, so that's going to happen in year 0 when they get started. And then 45, Westpac is committed to at least 45 new permanent jobs, and I'll show you a list in a minute, but they're going to have more than that. This is just our minimum standard. And based on that minimum standard, the payroll would be about $1.7 million. And as you can see, we've structured this as a performance agreement. And in the next several years, they're committed to new permanent jobs, and 20 more in year 2, and 3, and 4, and in 5, to get to 125, which estimated payroll for that group will be about $4.2 million. So this is all part of our negotiation for the in the 380 agreement. Then also there's going to be an undetermined amount of seasonal workers. More and more, it seems like avocados are grown year round, but there's definitely peak seasons or peak points in that year. So there'll be additional workers. And then so there'll be some more support personnel as well in the office part of the operations here in Laredo, but that's an undetermined amount. But that could be additional employees that could be part of the payroll that we're not counting here. But either way you slice it, what Westpac is committing to is 125 new jobs, the substantial payroll, and then seasonal and support jobs as well.
Yeah, and our job, Tekla, just to add a few notes here is,
Go ahead.
We want to be as conservative in our approach to you guys as possible. So these aren't stretch numbers. These are all very, very conservative views on what we are looking to do. This is the epicenter, and it'll be considered the main, if you want to look at it as our main aircraft carrier for landing into the United States. So, in the past, McAllen was, looked at as a very large center of ag. And, we see that Laredo is a definite opportunity for us. And we like the heavyweight corridors that you guys are putting in that tie into the 35. There's a lot of advantages there that we see that are selling us on, I think, your guys' commitment to build up the ag infrastructure, and I feel very strongly that, and so do the owners, that if we can get this done, that we want to move on this as quickly as possible.
And Trevor, as part of this facility, I know you're going to get to the facility in a minute. Next page, Arnold. This is going to be a showpiece for the company. That's what you mentioned to us, correct?
Yeah, so we will be using this as a showpiece. It will have all of our sustainability feature sets in it, as well as all of our latest innovative technology. We'll also have a lot of value add products there as well, which doesn't just include bagging and ripening. It also includes appeal and other value add services that we do not support at other value add depots that we do have. So this is really going to not only fulfill, the need of being the most innovative portion of our business, the most sustainable portion of our business, and then also aesthetically the most aesthetically pleasing view of our company as well. So it's you'll see with some of the design work, and this is very 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 new and fresh in terms of our design, and we're going to go through multiple revisions, but you can see that we're going more cutting edge and very contemporary modern type of look on our
Yeah, hold that thought, and we'll get to that slide in just a second, Trevor. I just want to show the group, and I know you guys were perusing as we're talking here. This is the wage scale, for instance, for the first year one. This would what they would look like. These are 50 jobs that that Westpac will have in year one, and so you can see the pay rate and then their annual pay, and I think there's exactly 50, but there could be more. And as you can see, even the sanitation workers are making $15 an hour. So when Gene and I, to be honest with y'all, when Gene and I were discussing this with Trevor, we really were pleased to see this because we've been working to push companies who receive a public benefit from the city of Laredo's taxpayers to do a little bit more on the wage end, and we really are pleased that Westpac came to us with this rate without us having to really push this with them. So kudos to the company for doing that.
Yeah, and this all comes from our comp study analysis. We do understand that it is slightly below, but our expectation is that the level of personnel that we will be bringing on board fit the culture and fit the ethical, values of the organization itself. So, that is in turn why we are paying the additional premium on those hires.
Next page, Arnold. Thank you, Trevor. So I'm going to turn this over to Trevor for this in the next 5 slides. Basically, this will be the distribution center for what Westpac will do here in Laredo. This is the inside of a different distribution center and packing center, but I just wanted to show that for just to give you an idea, flavor of what they're doing. But then the subsequent photos are exactly what Trevor wants to explain. Next slide, Arnold. Go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, so that's a conceptual design that we had looked at. We have multiple architects working on this. The idea is to obviously if you look behind that, you can see some insulated panels. You'll see in future slides that we're going away from that and looking at some recyclable materials being used as opposed to a foam and steel type construction. We're also looking at the modern contemporary style and vision and look, as it is a showpiece for us. We will have customers like HEB, we will have customers like Costco, Walmart, you name it, Trader Joe's, that we feed all of our volume to. They'll be at this facility, looking at this facility, and being in the city of Laredo, and obviously meeting with other ag companies as they're doing it. So it's important for us is the image, and really also tying in the image to our core values. And you can see here that we're looking specifically at what we call sprung structure. And that sprung structure has a considerable amount of recycled materials within its construction. It's a 60-foot clear span So it's 60 foot high with a clear span with no posts or anything or drop beams. It's a very tried and true infrastructure. So it's something that we would like to put in Laredo to show the sustainable feature set that we want to portray. Here's some customers that they already have now. Many of you are familiar with the Tesla Model 3 and how they built that so quick. That was with Sprung Structures. The SpaceX facility is currently with Sprung Structure as well. Blue Origin, which is the competing one against SpaceX, is also Sprung Structure as well. The U.S. government, Grove Tech, you should, if you ever are interested in some really high level, really value add, really innovative type of growing, Grove Tech is really, really cool. And I mean, I'll just go off on the side just for a quick second, but I went and saw their facility in Utah, and they were talking to some, Asian investors, and they basically said, hey, we're going to take this dilapidated building and we're going to use this new technology. We're going to basically farm rice from the top, and by the time it hits the bottom, it'll be in a bag. So, I mean, this is, very innovative things using existing infrastructure to, to produce a finished good. And you can see here, this is first class stuff. We're not cutting any corners. We do not believe in cutting any corners. You'll have a beautiful facade and a beautiful facility to match it. And that's really our goal, to set ourselves apart in not just in the Laredo market, but also, against everyone that we do business against. Yeah.
Excellent. And Mr. Dominguez, this is a building that McAllen won't get. We're going to get it, right?
Yes, I hope so.
Yes.
Trevor, excuse me, this is John Villarreal. I'm with IBC Bank. I saw where y'all want to finance the project locally. I've been a commercial lender for 30 years, so we'll be more than glad to meet with you. And we're very involved in the community, not only in the local level, but in the state and the national level. So
yeah, I am. That is a conversation I had with Gene and I had with Teklo, was what are the banks, and IBC I know was one of them that was recommended to us. I did let our finance team that we need to look for alternate community-based resources for our finance options. So we will be visiting you guys for sure.
And Trevor, if I might, I believe it's not that you have to, it's that you want to, right?
We want, yeah, sorry, correction. We want to. Yes, that is.
we appreciate that, and just give us a chance. I know you won't be disappointed.
Right. And yeah, I mean, all we're looking for is, the fair market rate. That's it.
And that's really extraordinary. I mean, y'all know this, and I've been dealing with projects in the Valley for years, and then here. And usually when a company comes from outside to your community, they're already banked with for the project with their local banker. So this is an extraordinary step, especially for such a large amount for the firm to say, hey, I want to do this in Laredo. So again, more kudos to Westpac and Trevor and his team for deciding on that. Next slide, Arnold. So the Chapter 380 program is, as everyone knows, let's just move on to this. We're kind of running a little bit long here, so I apologize. But the Chapter 380 of the Local Government Code, that in Texas, basically statutes authorize the cities to offer incentives based to promote economic development, such as commercial and retail projects. Specifically, it provides for offering loans and grants of city funds or services at little or no cost to promote state and local economic development. We went through this when we designed the 380 programs, and I know, Mr. Villarreal, you have an item on there later. I'll be happy to talk about it a little bit more at that point. but this is why we're dealing with the 380 on this particular. I just wanted to explain that to everyone. Just back up, Arnold, to the previous slide, please. So some of the examples that y'all are well aware of, but I wanted to just mention is Mission Produce and Medline are both 380 agreements that the city did with them. Also on our webpage, on the economic development homepage at the city's website, is a list of all the 380s that we have that are active. And so anyone can look at the complete legal documents for those 380s on the webpage. Next slide, Arnold. The City of Laredo proposal. So this is under the Chapter 3A, as I mentioned. We competed with McAllen for this particular project. The Westpac has signed a letter of intent with the City of Laredo. It's a non-binding letter, but it shows a commitment from the company. And once they did that, then I knew I could bring it to you for for a consideration. So what we are kind of agreed upon so far is a property tax rebate for 7 years, and I'll get into the numbers here in a minute. And then if Michael, if you can jump in here, Laredo College is part of the package because one of the things that Westpac is really high on, is committed to, and we heard Trevor loud and clear on this, is workforce training and also providing their employees education opportunities. So Michael, you want to talk about this for a minute?
Absolutely. Thanks, Declo. And you're right. We were encouraged by that. And here at Laredo College, we're the premier provider of workforce training in our region. And so we're excited to do this. Our mission is to transform the lives of our students and the community through what we offer at the college, primarily education, but through a number of our other organizations, including our Economic Development Center. And so Laredo College is proud to partner in this particular effort, and we'll be providing workforce training to include particular cohorts, customized courses if needed, and last dollar training funding as well. So we are committed, and we are really excited to see what exactly within our offerings or outside of our offerings that we can procure, that we can provide for Westpac. And we look forward to serving those needs because, ultimately, this is, all about our community. And hopefully with Westpac, joining our community, we can help to further not only their business, but their employees and the lives of everybody in the community through our contribution. So thanks, Declo. I appreciate it.
Sure. And certainly the hiring process is a little ways off. I mean, Trevor and his team still have to, build a building and fill it with the equipment and so forth. But once they get to the hiring process, I'm sure that Michael and Trevor and your team will have conversations about what exactly is needed, what certifications you're going to look for. And of course, Laredo College works very quickly, Trevor, whether they can or whether they can't, they still work fast. And we learned that last year, Michael.
And I appreciate that. And outside of the financial aspect of it, I can attest that, the training side, the leadership, the managerial training, the office, 365, all the different suites and ERPs that we use to do our day-to-day business activities. We welcome that, and we want our employees, our fellow Lareidians that I see I was chatting with Myra over on the side, but our goal is to bring in local talent. That's what we do. We build talent, and unfortunately, sometimes people take our talent because I feel like we're like the San Diego Padres, right? We've got so much dollars, we build talent, and then the guys with the big bankroll come pick off our guys. But yes, and there will be a percentage of them that will have to have college degrees, and they will have to have a master's if you are probably the site manager, which then correlates to a different wage and salary as you've seen depicted in previous slides. But again, our goal is to be conservative in that. But in terms of Michael and our relationship with Michael and the local community and college is to develop these individuals so that they can become a larger part of a larger network of Westpac, right? So we are very good at seeing talent and applying that talent to different areas within our organization. And if they are willing to relocate, or if they are willing to go and see what our new Colombian operations is doing, which is we're putting together now, which was not mentioned with the 2,000 hectares of planning that we're doing down there. Those are all opportunities that are basically open to any individual that we see fit for that specific arena or job.
No, thank you, Trevor. And again, I'm open to trips to Colombia as well. And additionally to your comments earlier, the Padres committed to Manny and Tatis, and so I think they're trying to be a big market team, right? So moving on, TAMU will establish a paid internship program. We've had conversations with Dr. Sears at TAMU. This is another thing that Trevor is very adamant about. And so we're going to continue those talks and then be able to establish something again before the organization starts hiring.
Mr. Garcia.
Yes, sir.
How many more slides do we have? Because we do have some questions from our committee members. I don't know if you want to wait for them till the end or you want to just go ahead and start to take them right now.
No, let's go ahead and take them now. I can take, let me just finish this slide and then I can take the questions. We did not abate any building fees or personal property tax in this particular deal, just to let you know. Okay, next slide, and I'll take whatever questions or the questions can be asked to Trevor or anybody
Mr.
else.
Dominguez asks, how many trucks do you import weekly? I guess this is for Trevor. And does your company own the farms in Mexico?
We're going to get to that, but go ahead, Trevor.
Yeah, so I was actually just about to type that. We do around 100 to 140 truckloads a week. That's about standard. We're working towards doing, our goal in the next 5 years is to probably surpass that into the 160 to 200 loads per week. We are putting infrastructure in place, and we're currently planning in the state of Jalisco, of which we have multiple hundreds of hectares there planted and in the ground, as well as we do have some acreage and hectares in the state of Michoacan as well. The percentage, I do not know the percentage offhand. I'll be very frank with you on that. Our goal is to have 10 to 15% of our own supply when needed. We do source from, on previous slides, from around 1,000 different growers between California, Mexico, Chile, and Peru, and Colombia. So we have a lot of relationships with a lot of growers with a lot of acreage and hectares.
Mr. Chairman, was there any other ones? Okay. Oh, I'll speed it up a little, but I don't want to go so fast where someone doesn't have a question. We can stop and ask, and just want to make sure everyone gets the right info here.
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead, Julian.
What did we use? I see mentioned several times Chapter 380. Did we use the original Chapter 380s, or which one are we using?
The new 380 that the committee recommended hasn't been adopted by the city council yet, so we're still under the old one.
When is that? Because I know what the discussion was, is that new Chapter 380, we were going to send it off to city management. They were going to do their updates, and then they were going to send it back to us. Do we have a timeline on when we're possibly getting it back for review?
Julian, you're only stealing Mr. Villarreal's thunder. That was his whole item, the next item. But yeah,
okay.
No, but just to answer that question, well, the city management still had it. We had a conversation about it last week, and they had a couple of questions for me, and I haven't heard back from them since, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But
I'll leave it to the next item. It's fine.
No, but no, that's the answer right there. It'll move to the city council probably in the next month, is my guess. But I'm kind of waiting to get feedback from city management. Okay, so on the rebate program, based on the $18 million improvement and our tax rate, this is what the rebate would be to the firm per year. Remember, this is all estimated based on appraisals, your current appraisals. If taxes would go up or down, or if the facility is appraised at 17 and not 18, or 19 instead of 18, there would be a slight difference in these rebates. But this is the best that the most accurate that we can provide you as an estimate. 114, 100% the first year, 75% the next 4 years, and then 60% the last 2 years, for a total of 593, or right around $600,000. Next slide. So the impact for Laredo and the community would be, for the city, even with the city of Laredo, even during the 7-year rebate period, would still be able to receive about $200,000 in revenue, as you can see to your left on the first line. Let's just say, for example, the next 7 years after the agreement is finished, and going by current appraisals and tax rates right now, the city would receive about $800,000 in revenue, right? That's without a 380 in place. The estimated bridge revenue for the first 7 years. Now, keep in mind that Mr. Newhouse has said that they're going to have about 100, 125 trucks, maybe up to 160. But I did this estimates on very conservative number of 50 trucks per week, just to show you that even at 50, the revenue at our bridges with that kind of number can be significant. I want to take in place any sort of acts of God or bridge closings or a low season. Anyway, either way you slice it, for us, it would be on 50 trucks a week, about $400,000 for that 7-year period. And then the next 7 years would also be about for 7 years, it would be another $400,000.
So
again, that's a very low number.
So Teklo, yeah, very low number. We very rarely go below 100. So I think those numbers are probably most likely double.
Okay, no, good to know. Good to know, Trevor. Thank you. I'm glad you said it, not me. Okay, let's get.
Yeah, I see the load count every day. So yeah, like this week, for example, we'll be crossing 107 loads. So.
Okay. All right, so keep that in mind with that number in terms of revenue for the city. Even if you just add, these number ups, it's very significant compared to the rebate that the company is getting, in addition to their investment in personnel and payroll and so forth. Now, for the community, everyone, I think I want to bring this to your attention because, often we will recruit a company in and we will never hear from the school district or another government entity. But the fact is that the city's taxes for any firm are only about 1/3 of the tax bill. Will County, Laredo College, and UISD, during the first 7 years of this agreement, they'll tend to gain about an estimated $1.5 million that's going to go into their general funds from this particular firm building here in Laredo. So there's even a wider impact than just the city that we're making with these kind of projects that are coming here. These tend to lift all the boats up, if you will. Next slide. So I'm gonna just wrap it up here by just mentioning sort of by the numbers kind of a thing. Again, this is about an $18 million project, about 125 minimum job number. There's about a $1 million ad valorem revenue for the city over a 14-year period. There's about about $600,000 that the rebate to the company. There's going to be the payroll between 1.7 or up to 4.2 on a conservative scale from years 1 to year 5. That's about $13 million total for that 7-year period, about 26 or more. With a 14 period, it'll be higher than that. And then, as Trevor said, about $400,000 bridge revenue for the first 7 years and $800 for 14. That's likely double that amount, but I just didn't want to. I just wanted to make sure that we were correct on that. So you can see where the amount of rebate that the firm is getting, they're providing and generating a lot more revenue than what they're getting back, and that's part of their investment in this community. That's it in terms of information. Numbers we want to project. I can go back to any slide that you like right now and further explain, and certainly have the experts here as well to expound on anything. But I'm really excited about it. I think this is an extraordinary project for us, and one that we're really proud to bring to you.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Go ahead, Mr. Algo.
Yeah, I've been tracking this project for some time, and had an occasion to visit with Trevor and kind of get a feel for the company's corporate culture and commitment to sustainability. And I think what we've all experienced in today's presentation, frankly, is the high watermark by the gold standard by which we would want to hold all future Chapter 380 agreements to. I know there's a lot left as far as the particulars of 380s, and we'll dive into that in the next agenda item. And I think management needs to hurry up and get back to us so that we can set a rubric, but based on the information that has been provided and the conservative data that's been provided as to return on investment, not necessarily for Trevor and his group, but frankly, to the city. I mean, this this 380 agreement facilitates a return on investment to the city that has short-term, mid-term, and long-term payout. And so, that being said, I make a motion that we endorse this project, and that we recommend that City Council approve it. And that's my motion.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
A second by John Villarreal. Discussion?
Yes.
No discussion. Go ahead, Arturo.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask which one would be better for him, Teclo, the old 380 or the one that is going to be reviewed by?
Well, I would say, I would venture to say that the current one, I don't think there's any extra challenges with the new 380. However, time is of the essence for them. And the sooner that we can get this to the council, the better. But they would. I used that new 380 anyway as a guideline, even though they haven't been officially adopted, Mr. Dominguez. So you can rest assured that everything that y'all agree to, even though it's not officially adopted by the council, I use as a guide for this.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get behind Mr. Algeld's comments. Thank you so much, Trevor, for wanting to come and invest in our city, your local outreach, using local banks, bringing 125 jobs, and putting the minimum wage of $15 an hour is going to be of huge benefit to our whole community. So we'll go for the call. All those in favor?
Keep your hands up, please, while Valeria does the count.
I lost my internet a little bit. Let me see what's taking off.
Let us know when you're good, pal. Julian has to get a new phone now.
My internet went off for just like about 2-3 seconds. But is there any against? None against. The motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one thing quickly? Just if any other
Go ahead.
Just if anyone else had a comment to add or a question, just want to give everyone a last opportunity, even though the vote was positive for the project, just in case they wanted to mention something to Mr. Newhouse.
Are the trucks crossing through Laredo right now?
Yeah, well, we have a combination of trucks crossing through McAllen. We do have, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Santos family. We've been doing business with them for about 30 years. And we do a lot of customs and USDA work with them right now. We're primarily crossing through McAllen and partially through Laredo now. We would like I said, to make Laredo our home. So definitely.
We can help you there.
Thank you.
Technically, I just wanted to see if we know when this would go to the city council for their review.
That's something that Trevor and I discussed earlier today. And given the committee's endorsement here, we will have to draw up the legal pact to get it from our legal folks to his legal folks. And then after all the back and forth and the city management's endorsement, it'll go to the city council. How fast that will be just depends. Just depends how fast lawyers work, Mr. Alkelt.
We all know that.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you once again for everyone in this partnership. Thank you, Gene, Michael, Trevor, Mr. Garcia, and your whole team. We'll continue with our next agenda item 5B, discussion and possible action regarding the creation of TERS and TERS guidelines for any future development regarding port facilities, which was made by Julian Ratnowski. Mr. Ratnowski, the floor is yours.
Mr. Ranowski, just very quick, I just want to mention something to our guests. You guys can stay on and listen if you like, or you can leave. It's totally up to you. Sorry, Julian.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure meeting you.
Sorry, I had to step away. My dog was playing with something really loud. So I brought this item up because of a lot of the discussion that has been going around TERS in Laredo, and how everyone's really excited to not only do one but multiple. And I guess I'll start it up by just asking the basic question: has city staff taken any path into creating guidelines and criteria for TERS when it comes to TERS the target trade and import-export and warehousing?
We haven't taken a stab at any local TERS guidelines. We've been using the state government code as our guideline so far. And to be honest with you, we've done one TERS. So, I haven't gone to develop, a local TERS guideline since I've been here.
Okay. I looked at a lot of other cities, and I know I've sent you some examples of, or some good examples that at least on TERSs very broadly for those cities. But I guess my question is, Theclo, do you not think that it would be advantageous and almost allow a lot of these TERSs to run a little more smoothly when it comes to approval if we had some guidelines on the whole thing, especially when it came to trade? Because I did hear multiple council members mention that there are more in the pipeline, and there's obviously a lot of questions that are popping up because of the initial one. And I think a lot of those questions would instantly be answered if we had some policies and procedures, guidelines and criteria.
Yeah, I would definitely be in favor of having some guidelines. A lot of other cities have them, some don't, but I can see the value of having them. But I would only recommend that they be broad enough for all TERS projects, not just for port facilities, because the ones that I've seen in other cities cover the whole gamut. But just remember that each TERS, regardless of the guidelines, which I think are important, still are treated individually and separately, because some can be, like the downtown TERS that we have, right? It's 100%, participation initiated by the city. There could be others initiated by developers. There could be residential. There could be commercial, retail. It could be one project, like a big, racetrack, like I have in Austin. I mean, there are several iterations of them, and you have to treat them differently, but guidelines would work. I agree with that.
The reason I asked that, though, and I do feel they're a little different, is TERSs have pretty much two predominant uses, the most traditional being the use for reinvesting in blighted areas where those TERSs are put in place. The other one being, at least from the examples that I've seen around Texas, is to create, affordable housing a lot of the time, to lower that cost to the developer in order to make sure that either the development, the way it's being laid out is beneficial to the city, a grid system versus a, suburban winding roads that dead end bring a lot more cost to cities typically than what a grid neighborhood would. But I think this whole idea when it comes to our biggest industry being the port, it's a little hard to measure what the overarching goal is. And when we do these contracts, I think we need to define them, once again, what the criteria is truly going to be, so that when we do create these agreements, that at least they check off the boxes that our city is not only looking for, but understands we're capable of achieving, that being what typically the fee or I'm sorry, the reimbursement would be, or the share in the real estate tax. So I'd like to hear from the rest of EDAC on their perspective on this, because I know we've kind of gone through this the past month right now, and I'd like to hear what other people's recommendations or concerns are.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I echo some of those sentiments. On my 6 years as a council member, we never once contemplated a TERS or a Chapter 380 agreement for, another vanilla industrial park. That is the city's bread and butter. That stuff sells, to mix my metaphors, like hotcakes all day, every day. I mean, there's at least a million square foot deficit in warehouse spaces. You could, you build a warehouse today, it will, it'll be an overnight instant success. And so, obviously cold storage, that's a little bit more boutique. It's a competitive area with other border communities whose market share, we want to either capitalize upon or build out here locally. And so, coming back to this, using the Majestic as a example, which, by the way, our recommendations were not adopted, so that's an issue. Council did not adopt our recommendations, as I understood it, which kind of does beg the question. Then, what are we really doing here? I mean, are we like patio furniture for council to sit on? I mean, I'm looking around the different faces on this Cisco WebEx meeting, and I see a lot of talented individuals and who are giving freely of their time and expertise, and you would think that would count for something, but I digress. So going to the, back to this Majestic deal, and I had a conversation with the mayor about an hour ago or so, and we were talking about it, and he said, well, yeah, but aren't we going to get, aren't they selling their property, at a more competitive amount per acre? And I said, Mayor, I haven't heard of that. I haven't seen that, any intimations of it being committed to writing. By the way, we've all asked Teclo, and this isn't directed at you, Teclo. I know you're being managed by management, but we've asked Teclo, like, hey, so get us the Municap data, get us the information, the raw data and metadata, so we can make to our respective council members. And that wasn't produced, so I hold on. I got to froze.
George, you cut out.
You froze for a second.
I'm sorry. Well, let me unfreeze myself here. So we then, didn't get the information from staff. So naturally, I filed an open records request, and it's all public information. that public, that open records request is now gone off to the Attorney General's office for an opinion, so we won't get that for 60 to 90 days. But, it's in, by context, when we had the negotiations with the Killam's on the Coves project, that was done in a very transparent way, in a lot of detail. The public knew exactly what the city stood to lose or gain or otherwise by, what, numeric values were involved. And here, we're kind of flying blind. We gave our recommendation to approve the Majestic project with some, keep it fair measures. Those were discarded. And here we are again, debating whether our TERS policy has any meaning. And of course, management won't throw that back at us. So, I mean, I don't know.
George, can I do a point of clarification? If I can just clarify something, I don't think council discarded our recommendation. It was staff that came in and actually said that it cannot be included in the creation of the TERS, but it can be included in the developer agreement. So just to clarify that.
That's correct, Julian, that's correct.
So that our recommendation can actually still be included at that next, I think it's May. So I guess we'll see what staff decides to do.
Okay, well, that's great news. And we would certainly hope that it would be incorporated into the developer agreement, because if not, we're not creating a fair playing field. As a matter of fact, we would be creating an unfair competitive advantage. I mean, how nice would that be, right? Half your streets, half your drainage, half your utilities, half your development costs are gonna, you're gonna get, reimbursed. Every developer would love to have that.
But that's what a TERS is. That's what a TERS exists for the reimbursement for public infrastructure. Every TERS is like that. 1 through 500 in the state of Texas. Look at each one. They're reimbursements for public infrastructure.
When you have
Well, I think what George is trying to point out is it's an economic development tool, and if we have a lot of sideways motion, that's not really considered economic development.
What is sideways motion? Business. What does that mean?
If you have a warehouse of 50,000 square feet moving from an obsolete area into a newer one for a less rent, or sorry, not obsolete, but for a newer warehouse for less rent, that wouldn't, at least in my professional opinion, not be considered economic development, especially if that area then starts to lose more and more tenants, therefore causing values to go down, or even, and I'm a real estate broker, I know how all this works. I'm the first one to point out the fact that lower rents will mean, the possibility of more affordability of coming in, but it still will hurt the values of those areas. And the only concern with that is that we're moving tenants, shuffling tenants from one area to another, and we're moving them into an area that we're receiving 50% of the income from. And I mean the city receiving the income from, versus those developments that already exist that we're receiving 100% on. So I think that's what George is referring to. Correct me if I'm wrong, George.
I think you got it. And then also just generally the concept of incentivizing projects that don't necessarily need to be incentivized. If you look at our comp plan, the types of projects we should be incentivizing are, diversifying of our economy, not things that do really, really well all by themselves.
Comp plan says that we must work in incentivizing logistics industry and protect that area by offering incentives to the logistics industry.
I have a comment if you all want to hear it. Right now we have such a shortage that even if you have a shift of current lessors going over there, we have a waiting list of people that are looking for warehouses. The problem is that our current industrial sites don't have any more land to build on. You can drive in some of these industrial parks and you'll see some land, but the owners don't want to let go of it. They're holding on to it. Therefore, there's a shortage of lands. Right now, if you build this, like George said, if you build a spec warehouse, it'll be leased. We have several buildings that are being constructed right now, and even before they went on paper, we committed to lease them. So this will open up an area that those that have land that can open up right now and are dragging their feet, maybe, and the TERS is that the TERS, when you look at it, it's to open up areas that are having problems. Well, we are having a problem. The problem is that those that are close by aren't building, and they're not developing their land. So we're landlocked. We have a golden handcuffs on us. So if we open up something like that over at the Unitech unit trade area, all of a sudden those people that are closer to home are might open up their eyes and say, "Oh, well, maybe we should release a few more acres for development." That'll hurt, of course, Majestic, but at least it'll open up certain areas down here. It might poke them in the rear, saying, "Do something," or somebody else will, and we're just going to have to skip over you guys and go out to mile marker 13 because you guys that are closer aren't doing anything.
So then what happens when, the Hachar Family Trust decides that, they've got 5,000 acres of raw land that, because there's such a deficit, would sell like hotcakes. But now they're like, hey, well, look, Majestic got this really great deal. Even though we can make the numbers work without a TERS, we want a TERS too. And so
we're talk to them as well. I mean, we're not shutting the doors, but we need to somehow incentivize somebody to do something about it. And the Hachars are dragging their feet too. They're developing, but they're dragging their feet.
Well, yeah, because the Hachar Ruthinger Road hasn't been built. But wait, when that road is completed, whatever they build out there will be an overnight success. My point being is that you don't need to incentivize something where the numbers are already really, to be excellent.
Not necessarily, because sometimes you want to open up areas that need to be opened up.
Yeah, but that's like that's in the middle of the epicenter of the port. I mean, it's going to do really, really, really well. So why would you incentivize something that's going to do really, really well? It's like leaving money on the table. And if they were saying, hey, well, we're going to delay it or we wouldn't do it, but right, that's the question. Would you proceed with this development, but for, the TERS, right? And if we can get to that question and they can, through data, show that, hey, this project will get started sooner rather than later if it's incentivized, okay, well, now we have the starting point of a conversation. Otherwise, we're just leaving money on the table, which is the act of amateurs.
We're not even.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's fair to call us amateurs, Mr. Algelt. That's a little severe. So I don't consider myself an amateur by any means.
Well, I wasn't really directing that comment at you, but if you want to take it, you're welcome to.
The thing is, George, that we're not even getting the money to the table, because when we, and I'm talking to you as a realtor, and Julian, you can attest to this, but we get phone calls asking for 500,000 square feet, and we tell them there's none. We don't have any. So what do? They look at other communities along the border, and they wind up over there. If we can open the doors up, and it's just like this avocado plant coming in, okay, we give them some incentives. They're leaving the valley to come over here, and like McDonald's, when they set up shop, guess what? Wendy's and everything else comes around alongside them. If we can give these people an incentive to start development right away, then it'll open up doors for us to have more warehousing, so that the people that we are turning away, and we are turning people away, we'll have some square footage for them to actually come in, and we're not helping. By not doing this, we're helping other communities grow, and that's going to spur competition.
Can I chime in on that?
Julian, go ahead. I'll give you the floor. Let's just try to bring back the discussion a little bit more in regards to the TERS guidelines and the future development rather than a project that we already discussed.
I just want to go off of what Merck said. I agree with his professional opinion. We have two problems, and it's funny that this produce thing was brought up today because I think that's the secondary problem. One, we don't have enough. We don't have enough warehousing, and I'm going to bring it back, Rafa, don't worry about that at the end of this. We don't have enough warehousing, one, and two, our warehousing cost is actually really high, partially because most of the product that moves through Laredo is high-cost goods, therefore they can pay the rents for these areas. The reason we don't have produce isn't because people don't choose to be here, it's they're priced out of the market, so we have to do Chapter 380s to get them into the market. You know, it all starts with the cost of doing business in Laredo. So I agree with Merck's perspective. I do think that we voted last time, and I still agree to this point. I do think the TERS, in order to incentivize industrial development, Laredo would ultimately benefit Laredo, so we can truly start competing against these more used to be obsolete areas, but they're trying to take our cake right now. You know, McAllen, El Paso, all those areas. I think we can still account for and make sure that these developments bring in new growth, and not only bring in new growth from outside of Laredo, but make sure that, you know, there is some form of accountability on making sure we don't shuffle around tenants, and we just, what we truly do is incentivize the development of new warehouses for new businesses or expanding businesses. And I think that was our goal in our motion. And to bring it all the way back, like Rafa requested, that's why I wanted to put this item on the agenda, is because instead of debating each other, I think we should let true facts and guidelines and criteria be what drives our decisions on all these TERS is moving forward when it comes to warehousing. These things should be, like I said, should be put on rails. And I know there was discussion a couple weeks back on why the Majestic TERS was never brought to EDAC until the very last second. And I completely respect the perspective of that it had to be, you know, kept under wraps, because once it gets out of the public, it can ruin the whole deal. But I think if we had guidelines and criteria, then, you know, there wouldn't need to be that much, we wouldn't have to be approving every TERS deal that possibly comes here, because we would already have, you know, those rails already in place that pretty much has not only the city council, but economic development advisory committees guidance already baked into it. Therefore, city staff can move forward within those guidelines. So I'll leave it up for further discussion. I already have a motion, but I do want to hear anyone else's, like I said, opinions or anything they'd like to bring up regarding this.
You can bring up your motion if you want. There's discussion after.
Okay, well, so my motion is to request city staff and city council to, or I have it written down here, to create guidelines and criteria for TERSs and TRZs for future development regarding port facilities.
Only for port facilities. Is that? I just want to make that clear. Not for residents.
Would you be willing to amend that and just remove port facilities and develop a standardized TERS?
No.
I'd like to. To me, this is more of a complicated and current thing. I've heard council mention there's more of these in the pipeline pertaining to industrial. So that's the only reason. I think we can use this to develop others, but just to start there.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Mr.
yeah,
Chairman?
and just to be clear, it's for an industrial TERS yeah, an industrial TERS is different from a residential
Any
TERS.
port facilities, and I also mentioned TRZs, which can be used for funding roads. So, which I think is extremely important, because I know one of the things that was brought up of concern with the Majestic TERS is the access. So I think both of those things need to be considered as we develop these out.
Okay.
Did you have a
And
comment
that's
you'd
just
like to say?
another funding mechanism.
Go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would certainly respect what the committee would want to advise the council on. I just wanted to, just a minute to say that I think that the policy should be drawn up for all TERSs. I don't know of any city that's dividing up different TERS policies for different things. As I mentioned earlier, every TERS application or project has to be looked at differently anyway. For instance, currently we have a TERS that we're considering that's a residential development right now that's been under works for some time, but we've been negotiating the last several months. So if we develop a policy, for instance, it wouldn't apply to that residential area. So I don't quite understand that. So I'd be in disagreement with that. That's just my 2 cents.
Mr.
Your
Chairman.
recommendation, Mr. Garcia. Go ahead, George.
Yeah. So then might we then amend the motion to also include a TERS, a separate TERS policy for residential commercial type developments, so that in fact we are incentivizing those principles within the comp plan that say, hey, look, less suburban sprawl, more multi-use, more urban density, more walkability, which are principles that aren't necessarily needed in a industrial port related TERS. So your points are well taken, Mr. Garcia. My amendment would also include language to that effect, that we also come up with a separate TERS policy as it relates to residential commercial development to incentivize those principles as memorialized and endorsed in our comp plan.
Again, I would just disagree with having separate policies for certain areas. Pardon me. Go ahead.
Someone speaking? Would you guys want to make 2 separate motions for creating 2 separate TERS, or would you want to just put it on all in one? Mr. Ranofsky and Mr. Alkel.
I'd like to leave it as is,
Okay.
and if George likes to make a motion after that, but he's.
Okay, yeah, so I'll withdraw my amendment and I'll make a separate motion.
Second motion. So we'll vote on the first motion by Mr. Ranofsky. We had a motion, a second by Mr. Alkel. All those in favor? Any against? None against. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Algo, what was your motion?
Yeah, my motion is that we develop a set of TERS policies governing residential and commercial development, so that we can incentivize those relevant parts of the comp plan regarding urban density and mixed use.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second. Can I have some clarification, George?
Julian, discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, George, when you say commercial, do you mean if someone were to build a mixed-use facility? Is that when you say residential commercial?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, then we'll make the call. All those in favor?
Keep your hands up for a sec.
Any against? None against. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr.
And
Chairman, if I may.
go ahead, Mr. Martinez, Councilman.
So Teclo, these motions that were set in place, will that come out of your committee to council? Or, because I would love to carry these under my under my purview. If it doesn't go through you, I will carry them and I'll.
No, they're recommendations to the council.
Okay.
They'll be presented before you guys, and then you'll choose whether you decide to adopt or not. Is that correct, Mr. Garcia?
That's correct. That's correct. Just one other last thing I wanted to mention regarding the TERS is I think there's a lack of understanding on TERS in some areas. For instance, we're dealing with the TERS right now that is residential. And one would say that why would we be helping a residential development when homes are at such a premium, as Mr. Alcott has just mentioned? Then would that disqualify them for that? I mean, they're gonna sell like hotcakes, as he mentioned. But yet we deem that development very
it's much more complex.
Critical.
We're not
Excuse me, I've got the floor for a second, if you will. And that development is very important. That's why we want to work with them to try to finish that out. They're a very important developer and a very important project to Laredo. So we're going to try to make that work.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor,
I'll bring that to y'all, by the way.
Go ahead, George.
yeah. So no, we must clearly be talking past each other. This is the motions that were made, especially the one with regard to a residential commercial development, is so that we're incentivizing the right type of growth. We're not, in other words, so that we're not incentivizing suburban sprawl. You know, San Isidro type neighborhoods, they'll do fine without any government public participation. It's when we go back to that urban density model and that mixed use model, those smaller streets and all of those things that humans gravitate to when they go and travel and they look for in cities to live in, where there's a little bit of risk to the developer to do that project, and but for the public participation that they wouldn't. That's what I'm talking about. So it's smart growth. It has everything to do with Joe Minicozzi's presentation that he made to us about the city of Leander. I think you were there for that. If you weren't, please do go watch it. It's critical that you understand that when neighborhoods go vertical, when developments go vertical, so does the tax base and so does the return of investment to the city. That's what we want to incentivize, because in the end, the city will, it'll be less cost of service to the city because things are much more compact. That's what we're talking about.
Perfect. I will say this as we move on to our next item. These are recommendations given to council, and council can adopt them as is, or they can tailor them accordingly. We'll move on to our next agenda item, 5C, discussion with possible action on the creation of a small business recognition campaign with Public Information Office and EDAC. We all know that the struggle that the pandemic has brought to our community, and especially our local businesses, the city has set protocols in place, and due to some businesses not following, there were repercussions towards that. There were fines. Some had their OCs taken, which is completely understandable. But I do want to go ahead and recognize businesses who have been following protocols, who did endure the pandemic, and who have been servicing jobs, who have been servicing our community in food industry, and entertainment, because obviously was also a psychological matter during this pandemic. So being able to go out and get distracted for a minute did create a huge difference to the city of Laredo. So I want to make a motion to advise council and create a small business recognition campaign between our committee. Did I freeze? Can y'all hear me?
No, you're good.
Okay, perfect. My internet keeps coming in and out. Advise council and create a small business recognition campaign between EDAC and the Public Information Office to recognize those who follow protocols and certified and service our community.
Second.
That's my motion.
Second.
There's a second by Councilman Alkilt. Discussion. Is there any discussion in regards to this item?
How are we gonna market this out there?
So the way that I was thinking of doing this was either by doing a small business Saturday recognition campaign bi-weekly, every 2 weeks or once a month, and the businesses recognized would be nominated by our committee, by our committee members. So we would end up recognizing, we have 8 committee members right now. We'd end up recognizing 8 businesses. Do you guys have any other suggestions? Any other ways that?
Mr. Chairman, I have a suggestion for you.
Go ahead, Teclo.
If anyone wants to comment before me, I can wait.
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
what my suggestion would be, given that the Economic Development Department has $0 for marketing, and obviously we have a grants administrator and an administrative assistant and me, right? That what I've been doing the last year, and especially since Gene has been on board and he's no longer on the call, unfortunately, is I've been leaning on the Mile One, who deals with small businesses every day, and Laredo EDC, who the city supports with about $600,000 a year, to take more of that small business development, small business marketing role, as we play as a team here, being that they have, especially Mile One, at their disposal. So I think that's something that I can help with, but that maybe they play a bigger role in helping roll this out for the committee.
One of the things, can I mention something? Yeah, one of the things, I guess, if we're gonna, to me, I think 8 businesses is a lot. I think we need to cut it down, but I don't know what all the other members. You're asking for each district to have wants to have a business. And then the other thing right now, I mean, it's a great idea, but right now, I think now with Abbott's proclamation, I mean, as far as the pandemic, I don't know if it's how long that's gonna take place. Now, I like the idea of recognizing businesses, but I don't know as far as the pandemic right now, because that might, I mean, by next Wednesday, we're gonna be at 100% with no masks.
Well, whether we're at 100%, whether everything goes back to normal, I still would like to recognize them for their whole year that they followed the protocols and endured through all this this time. I mean, people are recognized even when they're dead, so why not recognize people
if I can give an opinion, I think with the governor's, the fact that we're going back to 100%, I don't think this should most likely go through the Economic Development Department because it's really only 2 people. But can we make the request to, slipping my mind right now, but CV Convention and Visitor, CVB, don't they run a Facebook page where they advertise on? Is it possible that we actually recognize the businesses that are still going to be following the CDC's criteria, maybe not the governor's, but the CDC criteria where their employees are masked or something of that nature, so that obviously the businesses out there that are practicing safe guidelines are the ones that actually get promoted or basically get encouraged, and people can see that those are the safe places to go.
Yeah, I like that. We can definitely add that to my motion. The reason why I chose the Public Information Office to partner with EDAC is because I've seen the great work that they're doing on their social media. So I think that just a picture with the certificate of recognition and giving a brief speech would help a long way. With that said, is there any further discussion? None. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? And I'm in favor as well, obviously. Any against? None against. Motion carries unanimously. And we will move on to our final agenda item, 5D, discussion and possible action on the status on the Chapter 380 guidelines and status report on current companies that have active Chapter 380 agreements with the city and any other matters incident thereto. Mr. Villarreal, the floor is yours.
Yeah, no, I think we've we've discussed this. I know we're running late now, but I think we discussed it. I think Mr. Garcia mentioned that it's that the companies are there on the website. Is that correct, Mr. Garcia? And we also discussed as far as getting this, finalizing the guidelines for the Chapter 380. The last thing I think that is important is the compliance with the 380 chapters. So how is that taking place? And I've always think, I know like us as bankers, we always, when we do loan agreements, we put the burden on the borrower to tell us that they're in compliance. And then so when we go and we check, when we told you're in compliance and they're not, then, but just wanted your take on that.
Yeah, for sure, John. Thank you very much. Yes, all the 380 active 380 agreements that I'm aware of are on our website, except for one, and it's being looked at by legal to put on the website, which is the 380 we did with Aeromar. So if you don't see that on there, it'll be on there shortly. But all the rest, and then also the 312 and 311 sales tax rebate and et cetera agreements, they're also on our website. And I don't mean PowerPoints, I mean the legal documents are there. So, you can go there at any time of day to look at them. Number two is that the policy, as I mentioned earlier, but I just want to repeat it, John, is the policy is with city management right now. And we're going to try to move it to city council as soon as we can. And the one that the EDAC endorsed already. And then the third part of it with the compliance that you mentioned, yeah, most of the agreements done even way before I got here, probably when George was on council, is they or some of them, they all have a compliance item in there where the city must meet with these with the firms that get the 380, especially if it's a performance agreement. If it's a one-time grant of $100,000 or whatever, sometimes those are a little different. But all the performance ones that like the one we did, we talked about today, that require a certain amount of jobs by a certain amount of time, those usually have a clause in there that the city meets with them at least once a year to review their personnel records. Either we review them or a third party reviews them to make sure that they're in compliance, and it has to be done at least once a year. From our staff level here, we've done those with Medline, with US Cold, right? And one other one I can't remember right off, but we've had the payroll records in front of us, and we go through that with them. And then some of the other ones legal has done, like the El Portal, and then also LAREDO Town Center over by the airport. And then of course the tax office does all the ones that involve sales tax, like Alamo Draft House, which unfortunately declared bankruptcy a couple of days ago, and some of these other ones. So there are several folks that look at them on an annual basis, John.
So have they been in compliance, or have you?
Yes, some. I think most of them have been in compliance that I'm aware of. There's some that haven't. Alamo Draft House was out of compliance for a while. The downtown shopping center, El Portal, was out of compliance, and therefore. But
that was not. It was. I guess to the circumstances, right? The pandemic.
Well, it was way before. I mean, to be frank with you, I really can't discuss the legal issues that they've got going back and forth. Just that they were out of compliance. Not sure exactly all that took place.
And did you have a question?
Yes, just a point of clarification. My understanding when we voted to approve the Chapter 380 last time, that it would be brought back to us with any modifications that were done by staff. Is that not happening anymore? Before
I haven't made any changes to it, Julian. So I have to wait back from city council. City management. And if they suggest some changes, I'll let you know what they are. But so far, I don't know of any.
Well, I guess my request is if there are any changes outside of what we approve, that it be brought back to EDAC for review and then reapproval. That would be my request. And
if you want to add that to the motion, I guess, or whatever motion's being made, I guess that's how you would do that to John's item, right?
John, have you made a motion?
Not,
Okay. Well,
I'm happy to do it either way. However, if you want to just request it from me, you want to make a motion, I'm happy to do it.
I'd make the motion for public record, Julian.
okay. Motion to have any changes added to the Chapter 380 to come back to EDAC for approval.
Second, Arturo.
Discussion?
There is a motion, there is a second, any discussion? No discussion, all those in favor?
aye.
I'm in favor as well. Any against?
Did I give you enough information on your question, sir? Okay. Okay, I guess I did.
I lost y'all's cameras, so were there any against? Y'all could help me.
I don't think so.
I don't think so, right?
Cool. So the motion carries unanimously. Are there any more questions in regards to this agenda item? I know there was already a motion. If nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Let me just say to the group, thank you very much for taking the presentation seriously and welcoming our friends from California. Really appreciate that, and we hope to get a good project here for Laredo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teclo.
Very good.
We have a
Very
motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? None against. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you to everybody once again. Y'all have a great week.
Likewise.